up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is HEYKACKIE, and this is going to be probably kind of a long video. I recently got a request, and if you guys ever want me to make a video, my channel is still small enough that really it only takes one person to ask, and I will probably do it, so be advised of that. But someone recently requested that I do a health check-in, and that is because if you are new to my channel, I used to have a series called My Toxic Body, and it talked about how I have autoimmune issues, I have mental health issues. A lot of us experience this kind of stuff. I would say the majority of us have some kind of health issue like that, especially a mental health issue. But speaking only for myself, I was trying to kind of heal myself naturally, and I tried lots of different diets. I went completely raw vegan for a while. 10 out of 10, do not recommend. Basically, I just kind of went on a personal journey. What I ended up, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you how it ended. What I ended up arriving at was that once I got off of hormonal birth control, a lot of my issues went away. I was able to get off of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. I was able to get off of Humira, which is a really aggressive kind of biologic for a lot of different autoimmune disorders, mine particularly for psoriasis, and it was working for me, but it was also making me really sick. Antidepressants made me really tired, and I wasn't really sure whether they were really helping or hurting, you know, kind of whether the good was outweighing the bad at the end of the day kind of thing. And there was kind of a metaphor for the whole situation in the sense that occasionally, in fact, it got to be pretty often, the Humira would cause my body to be really susceptible to infection. So I would get something like a sinus infection or a yeast infection, and then I would need to take antibiotics for it. Or a diflucan, which is a cure, a one-pill cure, apparently, for a yeast infection. So in the case of a sinus infection, the antibiotics will weaken your birth control, and so you've got all kinds of complications there. But a diflucan for a yeast infection will actually interact with Lexapro and give you heart palpitations. And so I was just kind of in this weird chain reaction of like, why am I like 28, 29 years old on so many drugs to the point that they're actually interacting with each other and doing more harm than good? And so I kind of had to like take a step back from it and realize that like while my doctors, multiple, mean well, they are trained to prescribe me something to fix what ails me instead of trying to help me fix it on my own or anything like that. It's not that kind of holistic treatment like any kind of American doctor that you go to that insurance is going to cover is probably going to try and give you a pill. And so I had to kind of like back myself out of that, and I was able to maintain clear skin for a really long time. My update is that I've been having a really tough time lately. I have had a lot of issues with depression and anxiety and stress, and what you see through the camera is not fake. I recently discovered that even though I don't feel like doing anything when I'm depressed, making videos for you guys. Okay, so they say like find the thing that makes you feel joyful and, you know, brings you like light to your soul or whatever, and just do more of that. But honestly, when you're depressed, that's a really high bar. Like, bringing your soul joy is like, that's a really, really unreasonable expectation. I would say that if you can find something that makes you, for 5 minutes, forget how miserable you are, do more of that. And I went a week and a half without editing a video because my mom was in town last weekend from like Friday through Monday. And so that's when I usually film videos, is over the weekends. And so I just kind of gave myself a break and hung out with my mom. And after she left, pretty much all of the mental health kind of like relaxation that I got while she was with me just sort of like, it was like I had overdrawn at the bank. Like everything just kind of crashed back down on me when I went to work. And I'm really grateful for my job, but because it allows me to do everything that I can do, and it's an amazing opportunity. It's just been really, really extra hard lately, and I've been feeling very unrewarded. And I don't mean like someone needs to reward me. I mean like the actual output of my job doesn't feel very rewarding to me personally, and that's really hard for me. But yesterday, I was feeling like total garbage, and I had to make myself a list just to force myself to get things done. I was like, you know what? I need to just go tunnel vision, clean my house, like I'll feel better afterwards kind of thing. You know, there were things on my list like eat, you know? Like, it's like force yourself, like, you know, go to the grocery store, get some food. Like that, these are the kinds of things that like, that's how basic your like accomplishments are when you're really at like a rock bottom of depression and feeling really alone. And I sat down and I edited that video that I put out for you guys yesterday, and it was from filming 2 weeks ago and watching myself in a different headspace kind of before I felt just like really, really, really doomed and blue. That sort of rattled me out of it for a second because it was like watching a better version of myself on camera. But once I got done and like stood up from my desk, I realized that for like the entire probably 2.5 hours that it took to like edit, put a thumbnail together, post the video, talk to social media, just, you know, tell everybody that the video was live, I had completely forgotten that I was depressed. And I don't know, it's like you have to find those moments, and I guess sometimes they find you, and that moment found me, and it was this amazing sense of relief that I have control over that, and knowing that I can come sit down here and make something, and I have the power to just at least for a little while pull myself out of feeling worthless. So no matter how bad I'm feeling, when you guys see me on camera and I'm happy, it's real. There's no actual way, once you get really into filming videos, there's actually no way to fake how you're feeling on camera. It's just, you're going to, I actually liken it to coming back to meditation or yoga, and honestly, if you're like anti-woo-woo stuff, just leave, okay? Like, I'm gonna talk about my spiritual journey, and I have gotten yelled at about it from so many people that just think that it's bullshit to talk about spirituality. If you're that person, leave. I don't want to hear about it. But anyway, I liken it to coming back to yoga or meditation after a long period of time and having to face yourself. Because that's what it is. It's being alone with yourself, and we do so many things in our lives sort of unconsciously to avoid ourselves. And even if we have experienced a lot of self-actualization and we do really feel like we love ourselves at a very base level in the way that we're sort of unshakable in our foundation, and like no matter what someone's opinion of you is, you're always going to be able to look in the mirror and like who you see. There are still a lot of times in our lives where we get off track and we get distracted by kind of the everyday, and we end up again not being able to face ourselves. And so you come back to something that's so authentic and sincere and straightforward, like talking to yourself in a camera, which is just, it's why people struggle with it, is because it's honestly, it's kind of too personal with yourself sometimes. And that's how I feel about going and doing yoga. Like, as soon as you're forced into a space where you are alone with yourself, it's really, really scary, because then you have so much to answer for. And you see, that's why people get emotional in yoga is not because of, I don't know, being around all these people and feeling community necessarily. Usually it's because you're back in communion with yourself and you've put it off for too long. I want to take a break from this and talk about the actual health update, and then I kind of want to get back on the rest of my kind of like spiritual journey. So I have had to start taking psoriasis medication again. This is really fucking heartbreaking for me. Like it's really been bumming me out because I was clear for so long, but my life has been really, really stressful lately, and it doesn't appear to show any signs of relenting. Unless I can make YouTube a full-time career, guys, which is the dream, my life is going to look really stressful for a while. And so I've had this in my top drawer. It's, you know, an introductory starter pack of Otezla from my doctor since I got off of Humira, which was almost a year ago. And I have kept it because I just knew. I don't know. I don't want to say I knew. I just was really afraid that I was going to need it, and I need it. And the way that these drugs work is that you have to fail each one in order to move to the next one, and they do get better, apparently. So they want you to start off on like pretty much chemo. And my doctor was like, we're not doing that to you. And so that was why I started on Humira. I failed Humira because it was making me so sick, and it's because it weakens your immune system. And I just was like having sinus infections and yeast infections so often that it just wasn't really worth it. And so this is weird because it's not an injection, it's a pill, and the doctor and the website both say, no one really knows why it works. Let's put that in my body. So that's why I'm kind of at rock bottom on this right now, is because like you have to be pretty fucking desperate before you put an experimental drug in your body. And I have psoriasis all over my chest. I have it back on my scalp, which is what broke me. I have it on my body, on my back, pretty much just like, it's on my face. It's on my face. So that's happening. I'm on like day 3 of that. And I should be grateful that I have insurance that even covers this, because honestly, like if I had to pick the better of two evils, it's like psoriasis or a shitty medication that at least takes one fucking stressful thing off my plate, which is my body being covered in scales. You know what? Like this one totally sucks, but this one kinda sucks, and I'll pick the kinda sucks at least in the short term. So like, that's where I'm at right now. I'm like choosing between shitty situations, and it's just like my everyday is starting to just kind of like fill up with more shit than good. And it sucks because I am incredibly fortunate, and it makes me feel so shitty because I feel like I'm ungrateful. So all that aside, yes, I'm back on psoriasis medication. I don't know if you can tell, but my acne is completely out of control. I have obviously a body that likes to tell me when something's wrong. It just loves to throw a bunch of red flags at me and let me know, hey, guess what? Something's awry down there on the inside, and we're just gonna let you know so that you can fix it. Well, I would love to fix it, body. I would love to fix it. Could you be a little more specific? I would love to know what I could stop eating, or start eating, or sleep more, or don't drink, or whatever. I would love to know what it is. I've tried everything. I went freaking raw vegan. I've tried so many things, and I would love to say recommend me something, guys, but psoriasis and all of this crap is a mystery to the medical community. So like, you can tell me what might or might not have worked for you, and that it's still incredibly personal. And B, I am so honestly worn out on people telling me what to do. Even my boyfriend, he's just like, oh, you know, that guy who wrote like the 4-hour work week or whatever, you know, he's all about like biohacking, and maybe you should just like read one of his books. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm done with that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the patience to put my hopes into another radical life change that is only going to disappoint me. So like, that's where I'm at right now. So it's like, you know, if you feel the need to put the recommendations in the comments about what I should do, just think about it first. Maybe, you know, maybe don't. Because, like, I don't know how much more of that I can take. A lot of you guys might be saying, Khaki, have you ever tried therapy? The answer is no, but the answer is Tuesday. Today is Sunday, and on Tuesday, 8 a.m., I'm going to my first round of therapy, and I'm very excited about it. I have heard everybody that I mention it to, I say I'm gonna start doing therapy, they're like, everybody should do therapy, and I was like, I'm ready. And it's actually sucked because I'm like, I only now am I feel like in a financial position to afford therapy. I mean, we're talking about a copay of like $40 every week. Not everybody can afford that. And like, I think that totally sucks. I think that it should be something that like, not only our healthcare system should support, but that also, you know, the therapists should also, I don't know. I just know that my position is unique and I am able to do it and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to start weekly therapy on Tuesday at 8 a.m. And I'm very excited about it. It is my friend recommended this woman and she said she's a little new agey and I was like, I'm ready. Give me all the new agey. And yeah, so I'm really optimistic about that. I have a lot of stuff that I kind of need to learn how to talk about with myself, and apparently that is what therapy does, is it gets you out of a cycle of the way that you're used to talking to yourself about things and puts you in kind of a new headspace to help make sense of your own thoughts. And so that's what I'm hoping for. We'll see. So all that aside, I mean, not all that aside, all that now spoken about, I do want to give you guys kind of an uplifting moment in my life, so that you don't think that I'm just like over here like, you know, crying in the shower when I'm not off camera. But, I mean, there's a little bit of that. But, I have been trying to do a little bit of spiritual healing. And yes, a lot of people really get frustrated with the idea of the zodiac and astrology and things like that because they're used to seeing horoscopes in newspapers that are, they could apply to anybody. They're just, you know, they're just kind of like a novelty. I think that there is a very serious end of that kind of stuff in the way that we kind of exist in the universe. And I think that, yes, the time and day and season and moon and stars and whatever that you were born in actually does have an effect on your development. And if you disagree, that's fine, but that's just how I feel. And so I have been trying to seek a little bit of clarity through learning how to be my own kind of spiritual guide. And that has nothing to do with going to a palm reader or my tarot or anything like that. I've just been like reading books, stuff like that. And I stumbled upon this podcast called the Numinous Podcast. Does not have anything to do, completely unaffiliated with the Numinous, which is a blog by that woman, Ruby whatever, who wrote Material Girl, Mystical World, which I am reading. It's a little much. Like, she's a little bit too just like, I don't know. If you read it, you'll understand. There is some good kind of meat to it, but a lot of it is just kind of like, really? Anyway, the Numinous Podcast is this woman named Carmen Spagnola, and I just sort of came home on Friday in a very desperate state. I was pretty much unable to convince myself to do anything. I walked my dog and it started raining, and I basically had no excuse but to just kind of sit around and think about myself and my life, and I was just real low energy. If you've ever been depressed, one of the biggest things that is like physically caused by that, at least for me, is that you start to, your like heart rate gets lower and your breath gets shallower, and you just kind of feel like you have like less life force in you, and like that's you kind of feel like somebody's going, on you and you feel like your lungs are only functioning at like, 20% capacity. Very, very physical, very weird. So that's where I was at, and I sat on my back porch after I had seen a really beautiful rainbow that I put on my Instagram, and I drank a beer, and I just kind of watched the rain a little bit, and I listened to this numinous podcast that I had just stumbled on as kind of a self-help thing in the podcast app on my phone, and the woman who hosts it, Carmen, she had a sort of like 3-part series within it that was not the typical kind of interview format that she does. And I would highly recommend the app. I would highly recommend the podcast. The interviews are fantastic, but this particular, I think it's called like a 3-part, like learn to be your own spiritual guide kind of thing. I was like, I'll give it a whirl. You know what I mean? It might be totally woo-woo and weird, but like it could be totally awesome. And actually, this woman is totally awesome. And yes, she does kind of speak the spiritual language, but I feel like, in a sense, you start to kind of listen. Like you listen with your body and your brain, not with your ears kind of thing. And the right sorts of things start to find you. And I'm going to tell a real stupid story after this, but bear with me. So she talked about how she had started this company that was really amazing. It was like a, luxury, eco-friendly, like, furniture company. And then the recession hit and she went bankrupt and, like, truly, like, destitute bankrupt, like, couldn't feed herself, like, just, like, sobbed in the welfare office in Canada, and, like, it's definitely worth listening to. I will put a link to it below because it is just, like, incredibly, just, like, moving. But she said that she basically she'd just kind of fallen out of her, like, meditation cycle and stuff like that, and she finally just had herself a really big, like, heart-to-heart with, like, God or, the universe or whoever she was talking to, and she was just like, where the fuck are you? Like, where have you been? Like, why is this happening to me? I'm doing the best that I can. And basically she just got smacked upside the head with, like, this thought of, where the fuck are you? Like, you are being so unkind to yourself. You have had all of this really good fortune, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have used that to reflect your relationship with yourself. And that was like, oh, okay. Like, when I heard it, I was like, wow, okay. And of course, she was kind of crying when she was telling the story, and so I kind of teared up because I'm that kind of person. I'm just very sympathetic when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, I listened to the rest of the podcast and whatever, and, went about my life. And so, yesterday, again, I was telling you I basically had to make a list in order to exist yesterday and just do the things that I needed to do, and it was really mean to a guy at Honda, and he didn't deserve it, and I felt really bad, and I was just like this angel of doom, and I felt horrible, and my acne is just so bad that I got out of the shower yesterday, and I had gone to the dog park drinking bar situation, with a bunch of my friends, and we'd had a really nice time. And I don't know what it was. I wasn't drunk or anything like that, but I got home, I took a shower, and then I looked at myself in the mirror, and I have this really bad habit of getting, like, this close to the mirror and just destroying my face. And something in me said, why are you doing this to yourself? And I think that I try and conjure that feeling all the time of just being like, hey, this is bad. Stop picking at your face. But it came into focus as, like, this is you quietly hating yourself. This is the manifestation of you actually thinking really bad things about yourself and being unkind to yourself on a spiritual and personal level. And it was really crazy because I had been looking for this bandana. This is the stupid story. I bought this bandana a while ago and I was actually really excited about it. I was really stupid. But I like fashion. fashion, okay? And I just thought that this was a cool bandana, you know? And I misplaced it. And I couldn't find it for a really long time. And I was looking for it, and I had looked in the same place where I thought that I had put it for so long. And it was like the very top of my closet. And so like I couldn't really see, but I could like feel around, and I was like, it's not up there. Where the hell is it? And so I, in that moment, I'm like standing there and I'm about to just like mash something with, I have incredibly long nails. So it's like when I go to mash something on my face, I usually end up cutting myself, which is like 10 million times worse, and for whatever reason I still won't stop. And so I actually took a second, and it wasn't even, I don't even feel like I did it. I feel like it was like something that happened to me where it was like, fucking stop. Like, stop this cycle of self-hatred and of believing that you don't deserve better. Just like step away and show yourself a little bit of fucking kindness. And so I stepped away, and I went in my closet where I have this big stack of drawers, which is like my skincare and my makeup and my body care and stuff like that. And opened up a drawer, and I put my like, you know, serum on my face, and I was like, all right, sealing the deal, not getting close to the mirror again, like, you know, give a shit about yourself. And for whatever reason, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna find that fucking bandana. And I reached my hands up to the top of my closet, and I just rifled around everything, and this thing just falls out. I had looked in there 4 or 5 times over the last few weeks, and it wasn't there. I mean, it was, but I didn't find it. And it just fell out, and I went, I was like, I can't even tell you, I was overwhelmed with joy. I was overwhelmed with joy. It was the weirdest thing. Like, I just like walked into my bedroom. My dog and my cat are sitting on the bare mattress because I had like washed my sheets and not had just like the willpower to make my bed yet. And they're looking at me, and I was like, guys, found my bandana. Like, I couldn't believe how like excited I was to have this thing that I thought that I lost, and it was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. And it was in that moment, for whatever fucking reason, that actual situation made me think to myself, if you don't give a shit about yourself, the universe will think that you don't deserve anybody to give a shit about you. So it's not so much like care about yourself and the universe will reward you. This isn't The Secret. And it might be the case. But you can absolutely guarantee that the universe thinks that you aren't going to be worthy of love if you can't give it to yourself first. And for whatever reason, that just came into crazy focus at that moment where I was like, holy shit, like, I have been so fucking mean to myself lately. I have been so unkind to myself, and it is showing in every possible way, all over my body, inside my body, and honestly in my environment. I like can't, I'm trying to control all these things, and I can't get control over anything, and to the point where I'm just like hopelessly depressed. I can't really point to a specific reason why, but it just feels like I'm like snowballing, you know, in a really bad way. And in that moment, I just looked at my fucking bandana and I looked around me at my beautiful house, and it wasn't like, oh, okay, you know, come to Jesus, like, now I'm a believer. Like, it was just this really subtle shift that, like, I must give a shit about myself. I must give a shit about myself. And I don't mean, like, treat yourself, or, talk about how great you are, or count your blessings, or whatever. It's like, in every moment, just kind of take inventory. Is this something where I might actually be fucking abusing myself? And there are so many things over the course of my day that I think that the root of my actions is that I don't think that I'm worth it. And I never thought of myself as that kind of person, because I'm definitely one of those people that can like advocate for self-love and talk about it with a lot of people. And I feel like I've just kind of, you know, gone through one spiritual cycle, and that I felt like, oh, okay, well, I'm on the other side of it. I think that we go through a lot of spiritual cycles, and I'm just kind of embarking on a new one, and it was just so important for me to find that sense of importance in renewing my commitment to myself and feeling this response from the universe that's like, give a shit about yourself and stuff's going to turn around. But if you don't, it won't. And I'm really glad that happened, because I really thought about making this video yesterday and it would have been a very different video. It would have been end on a low note, kind of bummer of a fucking situation. And the things that I have to kind of hold on to right now are that making videos on this channel brings me joy. It brings me a sense of self-satisfaction and a manifestation of my creative energy that I'm not getting anywhere else in my life, and that yes, this channel is about helping you, but at the end of the day, the rewards are for me. And I'm really, really grateful for that. Also, that the universe isn't going to love me unless I love myself, and that goes for all of us. So, I feel like I've turned something around. I feel like I can start making positive changes. And so I just encourage you guys to kind of like, if you're having a hard time, take inventory of how you're thinking about yourself, how you're talking to yourself, how your actions are reflecting how you feel about yourself, and a bath or a pedicure or whatever kind of self-care that you're doing, it doesn't count if you feel like you're doing it in hopes that it's going to heal you. You have to take that power that already exists within you and within the universe, and you have to earn it by loving yourself. and in that moment, in those moments that you take for yourself, it's just like I talk about with loving your workout. Like, you're already there. Go ahead and take that extra step and make it about you. It's not about getting away from everything else. It's about being in communion with yourself. And just try and keep that in mind if you're having a tough time, because that's my new mindset of just like, is this action that I'm about to take actually coming from like a place of self-hatred? And a lot of times it actually is. And I'm trying to break myself of it. And honestly, I think that the way that the universe works is that this is going to find the people that it needs to find. And that's also on you. If you know someone who needs to hear this, I trust you that you're going to help it find the person that it needs to find. But yeah, this has already been an incredibly long video, and I want to say I'm sorry, but if you're here, then you obviously don't think it's worth an apology because you got something out of it. So, how are you guys doing? Leave me a comment down below, or like hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. I'm HEYKACKIE on both because no one else wants that handle. And just kind of tell me how you're doing. Anybody who has contacted me in the past and said something sincere and asked me any question knows I'm an open book, and that I do really like to talk to you guys, and I do really try and get back to each and every one of you. And so I really would appreciate kind of knowing where y'all are at, and I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you did, give it the old YouTube thumbs up, so that maybe somebody else can find it. If you want to keep hanging out and, following me on whatever fucking journey I'm on, go ahead and hit the button down below and subscribe if you want. You don't have to. But I really appreciate you guys hanging out and letting me talk today. And I will talk to you as soon as possible. I love you. Bye.